Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're all awesome. We're finally checking out the Lexicon MPX-1 today. Fun little story before we all get started. I bought one of these off Reverb. Well, I paid for one off Reverb months ago, and it never showed up. So I had to go through that whole rigmarole of contacting the seller, who didn't get in touch with me again. So then I had to contact Reverb. They tried to contact them. It's still this ongoing thing. Hopefully by the time this video comes out, I've actually got my money back. But having said all of that, my good buddy Brian Hook stepped into the breach and sent me an MPX-1 so we can check it out. If you've seen my video with the TC Electronic GeForce and you've seen my video with the Lexicon PCM81, it's almost like Lexicon went, hey, we've got the PCM81 and it's deep and it's amazing, but guitar players don't get it. Let's make our version of the GeForce. Assuming this came out after the GeForce, maybe the GeForce came out later. I probably don't have my chronology right, but nevertheless, sort of the late 90s, early 2000s, companies were starting to get on board with this blocks-based layout. You know, nowadays we have the Axe-Fx and the Helix and a bunch of other units like that, which basically use this same system. But on this patch, if I hit edit, you can see I have 2 rows here, and I can place individual effects blocks in each row. There's dedicated soft buttons on the front to turn effects on and off. There is a kind of major limitation here. You can often only run, say, chorus delay and reverb at the same time. You can't turn all of these on at the same time, which is one thing I didn't know going into it, but you know, bit of chorus delay and reverb. Do you really need much more in your life? You can always have reverb on in all your patches. It runs on its own processor, and then you've just kind of got to allocate stuff based on your preset. There is a bypass button on here. There is an entire patch section, which we'll talk about briefly, and there's a master mix section, which I think is really handy, just being able to go through and go, oh, hey, you know, where's my EQ mix at, or where's my overall mix? I can access it. From there, you've got input and output on the front. It's got XLR ins and outs, as well as unbalanced ins and outs, SPDIF in and out as well. So it's pretty well sorted in the whole connections setup there. I'm running it using unbalanced cables. I know this is heresy, and I have it placed in a parallel effects loop of my Axe-Fx. So all of this you are going to hear 100% wet from the Lexicon. Let's go. Since this wears a Lexicon badge, let's start out by listening to the reverbs. We're going to start with the chamber algorithm, but first, my dry sound. So a lovely sounding chamber. I am all about this hall reverb though. Check this. Outrageous. Let's hear the hall with some heavy distortion. That is George Lynch, 1988 in a box. Unreal. Next up, we got a plate. I love plate reverb on distorted guitars. Let's hear it. That's George Lynch 1984, if the other one was Lynch 88. I don't know what I'm talking about. Next up, we got a sweet sounding gated reverb for that super 80s thing. I don't know if I would use this on guitar, but it might be awesome on a snare drum or something. Kind of has this very slight thickening effect, but for the thickening thing, I like this ambience mode. It's basically an early reflections mode. Pretty rad, I like that one, and we're all out of reverbs right there. So what you can do is, let's say we like the sound of that plate reverb, we're going to select it, and then of course we can get in and we can tweak a bunch of the parameters. I've got this in a parallel effects loop, so mix is at 100%, level at 0, change the reverb size. You can choose to link a bunch of parameters as well, which if you're an idiot when it comes to reverb design like me, that's a good idea. You've got control over the reverb diffusion and the pre-delay as well as the overall decay. So what I could do here is just add a little bit of pre-delay to all of this, say about 25 milliseconds, which I would normally like on a guitar. I can always kind of turn the diffusion down a little bit if I wanted to. Wonderful thick reverb right there. There's a bunch of other kind of reverb design parameters, but if you're like me, you're probably just going to choose one of the types and maybe tweak the overall decay time or something like that. But they're voiced really, really well for guitar. I think a thing that you get on maybe a lot of more modern reverb units is they go, hey, here's a really big hall. There's 10 seconds of decay and it's set to the maximum time. And you're going to bring it up, go, well, that's cool, but I'm never going to use it on an actual guitar sound. Whereas these are maybe voiced a little bit more conservatively by default. And I think that works. It means you can get a sound happening a lot faster. So what I can do now, let's do this. If I can remember how to do it, I will hit edit. And I can come over here to the routing map. You can see at the moment everything is in series. So let's do this. Let's navigate over to the delay. I'm going to hit options. I'm going to put the delay on the bottom row. Oh, to do that first, I've got to maybe make the EQ a split. Then I'll put the delay on the bottom row. So I'll hit options again. So now you can see I've got my delay and my reverb in parallel. So if I add some delay, let's just select let's do a dual delay. I always like the sound of that kind of thing. We can come over here, delay mix is at 100%, level is at 0. I might set that to about -6, so it's a little quieter than the reverb at the moment. Delay time number 1, if I hit option over here, I can either have it in milliseconds, I can have it in meters, I can have it in feet, I can have it echoes per beat, or just in straight milliseconds, so not tied to tap tempo. Let's just go straight up milliseconds. Let's do the old 350, 500 thing. We'll do that. And for my feedbacks, there's a nice little tip for delays. Where is my feedback? Okay, cool. So 350, 500, I want to scale those. They are in a 2:3 ratio, so I'll put my delays in a 3:2 ratio with the feedbacks. So the longer delay has less feedback, basically. And we get, what do we get? Do we get delay? Hopefully we get delay. I think it's on. Yeah, and an awesome sounding delay at that. Listen to that. That's unreal. Give me some more delay level though. I think I was a bit too conservative with all of that. So let's put the level maybe just at 0, so it's as loud as my reverb. Beautiful. I know that's a kind of vanilla thing to just set dual delays like that, but sounds unreal. I would gig that. Unreal. I love it. What we could do is we could EQ those delays. I could put an EQ onto that lower branch and, just add a bit of low pass or something like that to warm my delays up. Or I think this is kind of the killer app with the MPX-1 that not many other things do before or after it. I need to go to my feedback, and then I think if I hit options, yes. So the delay feedback insert, I can put an effect on the delay feedback loop. For example, I could put reverb on my delay feedback loop. So rather than have my reverb and my delay separate, I'm basically sort of creating delay diffusion. It's a little bit different, but let's do that. So now my delay feedback loop has that plate reverb on it. Something like that. Anyway, let me add a little bit more feedback so we can really hear this. So feedback 1, and I'll scale this one accordingly too, somewhere around there. And let's maybe add a different reverb. I'll put the big hall on, just so we can hear that. I might not be doing this right. Let's go to the routing. Let's see if I can do this in real time. How good am I at using an MPX-1? All right, maybe because I've got my delay in parallel, that does something. So I'll hit options, delay routing. Let's put it on the upper branch, and let's make this not be a split. Hopefully this will actually work now. That's really interesting. If I go to the reverb and change the mix, then I'll actually be able to hear some of my delays first. That's pretty rad. I really like being able to put effects on the delay feedback. Let's navigate to a different patch, because I've done a similar thing here with the modulation comb filters. Check it out. Now I've got a really cool modulated delay. Another thing you can do with delays, combine them with a panner. In this case, I don't have the panner, which is in the modulation block or module, in the delay feedback loop. I just have it in front of the delay, everything set to 100% mix. You get Even though you've got limitations on effects, you can always combine your effects chains with reverb. The reverb has a dedicated chip in there. So let's hear that same patch now with hall reverb and a clean sound. So as just a delay and reverb processor, this is absolutely killer. The fact that you've got other effects types in there is kind of icing on the cake for me anyway, especially at the price these go for used. Let's have a listen to some chorus. What have I got here? I'm just using the, no, I want the chorus on. I need to hit edit and I want to edit my chorus, and I've got the chorus. So let's hear this clean sound with just a straight up stock chorus settings. I've also got hall reverb on there. So let's just try out a couple of little tweaks with the chorus. Again, because I'm running this in parallel, I've set my mix to 100%. What have I got? The chorus rate, pulse width, I've got chorus depth. That's at 100. That's maybe a little bit too much for this particular setting. I'll bring that down to about 65%. You've also got a second rate. I'll just back that one back down a little bit, and a second depth. We'll go easy on that one. You've also got resonance 1 and resonance 2 to further dial in your chorus sounds. So it's quite a subtle chorus on there, kind of has a little bit of that dimension D thing going on to my ears anyway. That's where I tend to like chorus. Let's have a listen to some other effect types though, because we have a mono flanger and a stereo flanger. I'm gonna go for the stereo flanger. Let's check it out. With a little extra rate, that is pretty awesome. We've also got controls for the depth, the phase, the resonance, which I'm guessing is like feedback, and the blend in there. So that's pretty cool. But we have these other modulation effects, which I haven't seen an analog to anywhere else. So we've got flanger, we've got a phaser. You all know what a phaser sounds like. A rotary, you all know what a rotary sounds like. But we've got this, aerosol. What on earth does aerosol sound like? Interesting, it's kind of got this like comey, phasey thing happening, but it's also flanger-ish. I don't know, it's really, really interesting. Then there's orbits. Let's have a listen to orbits. This is just running straight through, so my dry signal is going all the way through the MPX-1. There's no dry blended in. I've just gone back with orbits and set the mix to 50%. Now I know what's up. That's basically Alex Lifeson in a box right there. Let's have a listen to Centrifuge number 1 now. Yeah, that definitely has that formant resonator thing going on, and Centrifuge too. and without the giant reverb. So let the lesson be that there's sometimes you got to kill your dry sound to really hear your modulation effects. Aerosol, to my ears, kind of has that stereo through zero flanger thing going on. Let's move over to the pitch block now. Kind of with all of these effects and all of these units, whether it's the MPX-1 or the G-Force or the Intel effects or anything that came out around this time, I know they can do diatonic harmonies, but I'm not interested in that with the pitch block. I just want a really lush stereo detune. So let's go to the pitch block. You can select between a mono, a stereo, or a dual detune. I've chosen dual detune. Let's set the mix at 100%. And I'm gonna set one voice at 13, one at 11, and the overall delay at about 5 milliseconds. So let's have a listen to a nice thick, lush detune. The pitch mix there is pretty full on, but you get the idea. It does a pretty decent detune. To me, it sounds kind of in between your really tight, Eventide style detune and your loose sounding SPX-90 detune. It's got a little bit of its own voice going on. Next up, this is a delay where I've used the patch system to read my envelope from my playing and have it turn down the delay level. So it's what a lot of people would refer to as a ducking delay. There are, I think, up to 10 patches in any one of these. So you can see here, I've got patch number 1 set to the ADR1, controlling my delay level. How many patches? You can have up to 5 patches per preset in here, but I'm just using this for a pretty vanilla mono ducking delay. That's kind of doing the thing right there. Let's move on to the trem. I'm going to go to a clean sound really quickly. So at the moment, this is just set up as a trem, but I've also placed it after the reverb in the grid. So when I activate the reverb, I'm going to have this really big hall reverb, and the reverb tails are going to be modulated in volume. First the trem, then the trem and the reverb. I know I haven't covered all of the effects in this particular video, but the one that I found the most interesting is there is an overdrive circuit in here. So what I can do is kick in some OD on top of my clean sound, and you know what? It actually sounds pretty good. This is maybe one of the most pleasant sounding drive effects I've heard in any of these rack units. pretty interesting, right? It is a little bit noisy. The MPX-G2 took this further, and as I understand it, actually had an entire analog preamp section. I would love to get one of those to try it, because you could do full cable method with it as well, which the old MPX-1 does not do. I'm going to turn that drive off. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff with the MPX-1. The thing that I didn't really explore in a whole lot of depth was the patching system. The amount of control you can have over the parameters in this unit is really, really impressive. The way you can set it up with MIDI, CCs, and other modifier assignments means it's more than just of like, you know, a bunch of effects stuffed into a box like the Roland GPA, which is a really cool unit, as we saw on the channel. But this gives you a lot more of that kind of control feel that you would expect from something that wears the badge Lexicon. I think for my money anyway, it seems to be the Eventide stuff, the Lexicon stuff, just really knocks it out of the park when it comes to those fine controls. If you want to get in there and program stuff that you can't hear in any other units and essentially do sound design with them. Even on the humble MPX-1, there's enough cool stuff, I think, that if you're interested in using this on more than just guitar, you're going to have a really, really good time. If you just want to use it on guitar, this is probably the Lexicon unit to get. It is a little less deep than something like a PCM 81, but if you just want straight up vanilla guitar sounds, you don't want that depth. You want access to something like Reverb, press a button, select a hall, it's an amazing sounding hall, or set a dual delay or some pitch detune. Pretty awesome stuff. The frustration is, you know, I think at most you can run like chorus delay and reverb in a patch. You can't do chorus delay, reverb, and detune. You can't get those big effects chains happening. Again, I think the MPX G2 does that stuff, but I haven't tried one firsthand. So yeah, if you only need something to do a bit of reverb, delay, and chorus, and you want it to be in a rack, I think the MPX-1 might be my favorite unit that I've tried so far for that application. The delays are fantastic, the reverbs are fantastic, the patching system is cool. You've got some fun effects like aerosol and orbits and other mod effects in there. I don't know if I'd use them all the time, but they're fun nonetheless. I could almost see if I had to have a 4-space rack with a preamp and a single unit power amp, this would be an immediate choice for reverb and delay. And if I was going high end, I would use something like an Eclipse for everything else. If I was maybe going for something towards the lower end, price-wise anyway, maybe an IntelliFX. An IntelliFX and an MPX-1 would be a whole lot of awesome for not too much money in your rack. Anyway, what did you all think of the MPX-1? Did you have one of these back in the day? Do you still have one? Do you love it? And did you learn anything from this video? And is there anything you want to share with me so that I can pick up some awesome tips and tricks with this thing? This is amazing. I love it. All I'm missing now is a G2 so I can pair them up. Thanks so much for watching the video. I'll see you all next time.